You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't KIEQ on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't KIEQ on the mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't KIEQ on the mic.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of KIEQ on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Bears fans, make sure you also do me a huge favor by also hitting the like button on today's episode of KIEQ on the Mic. So, Bears fans, we are back for another Friday edition of another really cool exclusive interview. Today, we have a very special guest. He's a former Chicago Bears running back from the years 2009 to 2012. Today on the program, we have Kahlil Bell. How you doing, Kahlil?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really juiced to have you on. I know that you played on the Bears in a very prime time in my life when I really started to really love the Chicago Bears. So I was really juiced when I got this opportunity. I know that we talked the other day when we were setting things up, and I remember you telling me, hey, I'm not sure if the Bears fans are going to remember who I am, but I'm like, here's a message to all those Bears fans. If you don't know who this guy is, I may have to revoke your Bears fan card.
Well, I mean, that was a long time ago, man. You know what I mean? I don't even, like my dad tells me, that and 50 Cent will buy you a cup of coffee. So no one cares about yesteryear. You know what I mean? But I'll never forget Chicago. I'll never forget the fans. I'll never forget my experience in Chicago. It was a blast. It was a dream come true, really. I think my only regret really is I didn't get to play longer for the Bears. You know what I mean? I kind of traveled around after I got released from them in 2012. So, I love Chicago, man. I wish I could get back, honestly, but my schedule is so busy these days. Coaching the youth football, football's kind of a year-round thing for me. But one of these days I'll get back and maybe pop in downtown and see if anyone can still give me the free pass to the front of the line like I used to back in the day.
The one thing about Bears fans, I think it was a couple of weeks ago on social media, I know there's like this one Bears page on X that will say like, hey, do you remember this player? And I think they did you a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, yeah, I know who that is. Kahlil Bell. I remember you really kind of took the league by storm. I do remember that even as a young kid. I remember your first NFL carry. We're going to go back down memory lane, see if you actually remember this. And I want you to kind of go back in memory lane with me and kind of go through that moment with me as well and then describe that feeling. So your first NFL carry on November 22nd of 2009 was a 72-yard run. And I believe it went for a touchdown, maybe not, against the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football. And that was actually the record for a long time for the longest first carry until like 2016. Can you go back to that moment?
Well, I mean, it's always a bittersweet thing because I did not score on that play, unfortunately. I got hawked down by Asante Samuel, all-pro cornerback, was a really good player for a long time. So my first memory is I wish I was a little faster because then it would have been like 82 yards and a touchdown on top of that. So that was my first memory. When I think about that, I really just think about everything that I've been through in my career, coming from a small school in high school. Going through all my trials and tribulations at UCLA, being injured a lot, being kicked off the team as a sophomore, being cut from the Minnesota Vikings is who I signed with initially, and then finally getting a chance to be on practice squad for 7-8 weeks with the Bears, and then the coaches telling me I was going to get an opportunity to play on Sunday Night Football, and I remember having my mom and dad in the stands, and I remember before the game I was so nervous I had to get oxygen because I just wanted to put my best foot forward, man. Being an undrafted guy, your opportunities are very few and far between. So I just wanted to make sure I was ready, and I got the ball, and the line just opened up, and there was no one in front of me, and all I kept thinking in my head was, "Don't get caught, don't get caught." And unfortunately, I got caught. But but like my coach said, if you get caught 72 yards down the field, I'll take that every time. Obviously, the touchdown would have been nice. And winning that game would have been nice. I think we actually lost that game. I don't remember. Yeah, we did lose that game actually. But it was just a blessing, man. It was kind of my welcome to the NFL moment. Running out of Soldier Field, all the great running backs that have played for the Chicago Bears franchise, and have an opportunity to go out there on Sunday night. A night game where everybody in the country is the only primetime game on. And be able to make an impact and an imprint on the game on my first carry, it was just a blessing, man. I was grateful for it.
Yeah, like I said, even as a young kid, I remember that play, and I was like, "Who is this kid?" You know, you were a household name for a little while for the Chicago Bears, so that was really awesome. But you bring up the history, the rich history of running backs that have played for the Chicago Bears. Can you give us your top 5 list of Chicago Bears running backs all time?
Oh wow.
I know I'm putting you on the spot.
You are putting me on the spot, my man. So obviously, I don't know if I can give you 5 because I'm a fan of the position. So I really grew up watching all running backs from every team. I never even had a favorite NFL team because I always felt like that would kind of be a disservice because number one, I really love the position of running back. So, if you were a guy, you were a baller, I wanted to emulate parts of your game. But first and foremost, I mean, how could it not be Walter Payton? I mean, my number was 34 in high school. In honor of him, I actually remember playing in a Pop Warner game, and my number at the time was number 20 because Barry Sanders was currently playing. And I remember before the game, the news broke that Walter Payton had passed. And, for a guy that I never knew, never met, never talked to, converse with, but just to watch the effort that he ran with and the heart and the passion that he ran with was truly inspiring, especially as a kid. And so when he passed away, I changed my number to 34 in honor of him. And, I really tried to, obviously Walter was, one of the best, if not the best to ever do it. So I could never really compare myself to him. But what I always tried to do was make sure that whenever I had the ball, I never went down easy. I ran with everything I had, and I never tried to let one guy tackle me. And I think that's one thing that all running backs can strive to do, regardless of your talent level, because, at some point it just really matters about the kind of heart you got inside. So I'm definitely putting Walter up there, probably number 1. I'll put Gale Sayers up there, number 2. Honestly, even though, I was competing with him. Matt Forte he was phenomenal, man. The things he did out the backfield, catching the ball out the backfield, his ability to move in space, especially being I wouldn't say a big back, but he was definitely bigger in stature, around 6'1", 215, 6'2", maybe. Really good hands, his ability to block. He was a very good player. And then to round out my top 5, I would probably say, I really like Thomas Jones this was before Matt Forte.
Yep.
Obviously Virginia Tech, I believe, is where he came out of. Big fan of him in college. And then, that's tough, man. I mean, I'm not going to be so vain to put myself in there, but who I really did like was the guy who just was playing for the Lions the past year, Montgomery. From David Montgomery, I think he was.
Yeah.
Not because he was super talented, not because, obviously he was a great player. I was kind of disappointed to see that he went into, in the division to the Lions, but the way he ran the ball, man, I'm a big fan of guys who fight for every single yard they get. And every time he got the ball, you could just see that, it was out like he was trying to prove. Now, I'm sure I'm missing some people. Like I said, I wasn't the biggest Bears fan growing up. Obviously, I like Walter, but I'm sure there's people that I'm not even thinking of. It kind of caught me off guard, but those 5 are the guys that really come to mind, and I really enjoyed watching them play.
And you bring up the fact like guys like David Montgomery, guys that fight for extra yards, and that's why you were kind of the perfect fit for the Chicago Bears, because you mentioned that you weren't the fastest, but you fought for every yard, and when you have a good running back like yourself, right, and you have a really good defense, that's always been Chicago Bears football. So I think when running backs are actually drafted or brought into this organization, it is an honor because the guys that came before them, Walter Payton, Gale Sayers, right? All those guys. So those are really good guys to look up to.
Well, it's kind of hard to walk into the practice facility and you see about a 30-foot picture of Walter Payton and to not really feel inspired. I thought it was a perfect fit for me, especially being a blue-collar city like Chicago.
Right.
It always made me feel good when I was out in the city, even though, like I said, I was never an all-pro. I was never a Pro Bowler. I was never even a starter except for, a stint of games in the 2011 season. But the fans of the city, the fans of the Bears, they always seem to really appreciate how I ran the ball. And that was always something I really loved and I enjoyed. People would come up to me and say, man, you run hard. And for me, that's the ultimate compliment, especially not being as talented as some other guys. I knew that I was never going to be, have the speed of a Chris Johnson back in the day with the Titans, or have the power of a Earl Campbell, or I was never going to be that type of back. But what I could do is I could get tough yards, and when you put the ball in my hands, I could try to make plays. And I thought I always did that every time I got the opportunity. So it was always nice for the people of Chicago to compliment me on that, even though, like I said, I was just the second or third string running back on the roster, man. So it felt good.
Yeah, you always had that chip on your shoulder, though, as well, Kahlil. And the people in Chicago, the people that live in Chicago, also have a chip on their shoulder. If you go all out for the city, they will respond in a very good way. And that's exactly what you did, even though you weren't the starter, right? But you played every down and you lived every moment to the fullest in a Chicago Bears uniform. So, of course, they're going to show you love when you're going all out for the organization. So,
Well, I mean, I think that's just kind of indicative of, how you should play the game. It doesn't matter what position you play. Especially to be able to play at that level, the professional level, and make a good living doing it. I feel like we're all blessed. So, that really just comes from how I was raised. And, my dad used to say, if your mom put on a helmet, then you better take her head off. And my mom would look at him like, you're crazy. You know what I mean? Like, but my dad's like, there are no prisoners on the football field. You know what I mean? Every time you step out there, you got to assert yourself and make your presence felt. So, being able to be matched with a city like Chicago. And I kind of felt bad because when I signed with the Bears after I had got released from Minnesota my rookie year, the Bears were actually one of the first teams to call me after the draft to bring me on. But Eric Bieniemy at the time was the running back coach for the Minnesota Vikings, and he was my running back coach at UCLA. So I kind of felt like that was a natural fit, knowing that he had recruited me out of high school. And, obviously they had Adrian Peterson and Chester Taylor, who later became a teammate of mine with the Bears. But I felt like I was going to get the best opportunity to shine there. Obviously, it didn't work out. And when I got there, Lovey kind of gave me an elbow bump. I was like, yeah, man, we tried to get you here a while ago, and you told us no. So it ended up working out perfectly, man. And like I said, being able to play, and like you said, it's a blue collar town. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the weather. People are stuck inside half the year because it's so cold.
Yeah.
No nonsense. Obviously we know it, the violence and stuff like that in Chicago, but, real hard working people, and people that really love their sports team, whether it's the Bears, whether it's the Blackhawks, the Sox, the Cubs, you know what I mean? But I think football, obviously, as it does in most American cities, it kind of has that grit, that griminess to it. That's what really attracts people to it. So, being able to go out there and play and having the fans appreciate the things that I did do in my very, very short, limited time there, it was always a blessing.
I always say this to everyone when I'm talking about the Chicago Bears, but I'm like, it's serious. When you think about the city of Chicago and their sports team, of course you have Michael Jordan that won 6 championships with the Bulls. Mm-hmm. If the Chicago Bears just win another Super Bowl, other than the one in 1985, that will surpass all the rings that Michael Jordan won. It's a wrap.
Super Bowl, I'm flying back for the parade.
You know what I mean? People are all in about their Bears.
No, they are, man. And no disrespect to the Bulls and what Michael Jordan accomplished. Obviously, still my GOAT to this day. I got to see him in the tail end of his career, and he was incredible. But there's just something about football in the city of Chicago that just hits differently. You know what I mean? The fans. There were a couple years there when I was with the Bears where we weren't even in playoff contention, but we sold out every game. You know what I mean? I think we were 6-11 or something like that. Yeah. And we sold out every game. You know what I mean? And even when we came out, in some of those years when we might not have been in the playoffs, we would go out in the city and it was still love. You know what I mean? Guys still showed us love. The club showed us love, the restaurants and things like that. So it's something special about, the whole Monsters of the Midway thing. And I think that goes way beyond before I played. I think that was established years and years ago with the great George Halas. You know what I mean? So to be able to be a part of that tradition, I think the Bears are one of the oldest franchises in the NFL. And to say I got to put on that helmet and walk in that locker room and play on that field, so it's a pretty special thing, man. It's something that I'll always cherish.
Yeah, Kahlil, you bring up the term Monsters of the Midway. During your time in Chicago, you actually played with a bunch of monsters. I look at your teammates during your career with the Bears. You talk about Brian Urlacher, Hall of Famer, Lance Briggs, Charles Tillman, Olin Kreutz, right? Greg Olson, Devin Hester, Matt Forte, and the list goes on and on. What did you learn from those guys when you were in Chicago?
Well, I was blessed, obviously. I think even when we weren't, as good. I mean, I know in 2011 or 2010, we went to the NFC Championship game. We always had a pretty strong defense. I think we were top 5 every single year I was there. And to be able to practice against, like you said, Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs, Charles Tillman, Julius Peppers had just signed after my rookie year. So to be able to practice against these guys every single day and to really see like, wow, you know what I mean? Like I played football against Hall of Famers daily. Obviously we weren't tackling and things of that nature in practice, but to see how they interacted with their teammates, to see how they practiced. And I think the thing that always made them special is they never carried themselves like they were above anybody. Lack, Briggs. I mean, Briggs is still a really good friend of mine today. Those guys never walked in like their shit didn't stink. Excuse my language. I don't know if I can say that.
No, you're all good.
They always were a part of the team. And I think that's something kind of special when you got guys who are making so much money, so much more money than other people, but they still act just like one of the guys and they still act like, hey, I'm just one of you guys. I just happen to be making 100 million. You know what I mean? It's special and it really breeds a special environment. I mean, I think my first year, Lack didn't even play. He had a broken hand. So he was in a cast for the whole year. When I had got there, he wasn't even suiting up. But he was there every single day, came to every practice, went to every meeting. When we had lunchtime or break time, he'd be in there playing ping pong. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Brian Urlacher is absolutely ridiculous in ping pong. So is Robbie Gold, by the way, if you remember Robbie.
Okay.
Those two were the best on the team. I don't think I ever beat them once, and I played them almost every chance I got. But, it was just special, man. Being an offensive guy, I kind of pride myself on being able to play against top defenders and to be able to go and practice against them in training camp and OTAs and mandatory mini camp and summer and fall camp, being able to hone my skills against them and try to get the best of them made me a better player, number one, and maybe just realize that, you could be the best player in the world, but if you don't ingratiate yourself with your teammates, it's kind of counterproductive. So those guys are awesome, man. Those guys were, a lot of them should be in the Hall of Fame. And I think, at least the guys that you mentioned just now, I think those guys will all get their shot one day for sure.
Those guys were a true testament of what it meant to be a Chicago Bear on off the field. I know they love the city and the city loved them right back. You bring up the fact in 2010 had a really good team. That was like the last really relevant year for the Chicago Bears. I know the Bears were really good in 2018, but got bounced first round against the Philadelphia Eagles. But 2010, this team actually went to the NFC title game. And I always think to this day, if it wasn't for Jay Cutler getting hurt, that could have been likely a Super Bowl for the Chicago Bears that year.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough that's tough, man, because it's the Packers and the Bears, obviously they've had that rivalry for way before I was even a part of the franchise or way before I was even born. So to have a year, I think we were 11-4 that year or 11-5. We had home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and Jay gets hurt, and we were right in it until that last pick by B.J. Raji in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
and we had our shots, so it was extremely disappointing. And that was also my second year in the league, so we went like 6-11 the year before, 6-10, and then the next year we were in the NFC Championship game. So for me, it was kind of like, well, I guess this is normal because you got to remember when I was in college, the Bears went to the Super Bowl and played Indianapolis. They played Peyton Manning and the Colts. So they, it was never like they were just a bad team. That had success in the past. I believe that was Devin's rookie year when they went to Miami to play Indianapolis, and I was watching them grow, watching them play, watching that defense. The whole rest in peace, Danny Green. They are who we thought they were.
Yeah, and we let them off the hook.
Freshman or sophomore in college when all that stuff went on. So then, after my first year getting a chance to be a part of that team and playing in the NFC Championship game, it was very disappointing. Sitting on the sideline thinking, dang, I might actually get a chance to be in a Super Bowl as a second year player. You really can't ask for much as being an undrafted guy who everyone said should just be happy to be there. You know what I mean?
It was really unfortunate. Me being a young kid, you bring up the Super Bowl in 2006. I remember, I think I was like 7 or 8 at the time. I remember as the Bears were losing, I turned to my dad and I'm like, hey, are the Bears going to go back? Will they be back? He's like, yeah, I think they will. And then 2010 had a chance to go back. But ever since 2010, really nothing for the Chicago Bears. But all in all, it was still a really special team with special players. I do want to talk a little bit to you because this year is a really relevant year for the Chicago Bears as Devin Hester is actually going into the Hall of Fame. Talk to me about Devin Hester being on the sideline and really watching him work on Sundays.
Well, it was a little surreal for me because, obviously, like I said, I was in college when he was his first couple years when he just took the league by storm. I think I played with the Bears any chance I got in Madden because of him, because he had like 99 speed. He was like the only player ever to have that rating in the speed category. But obviously getting there as an undrafted free agent, you're kind of told by everyone that special teams has got to, you got to be a guy on special teams because we're not bringing you here to carry the ball. You know what I mean? So not only that, most of us don't want to play special teams growing up. No one says, hey, I want to go to the league and play special teams. But when you got a guy like that back there who's special and everyone knows is special and everyone knows that if you do your job, the chances of him having a big play, an explosive return, or even a touchdown are pretty high. I don't think I've ever been around a bunch of guys that collectively were so, invested in his success. You know what I mean? Obviously, what he did when the ball was in his hands, that was God-given. That was him. But, having a special team coordinator like Dave Tobe, who I believe still with the Kansas City Chiefs to this day, the schemes he made. And, Johnny Knox also had a couple touchdowns that, in those years I was playing with the Bears as well. And, to have returners like that, especially Devin, and to get a chance to block for him, man, it's pretty surreal. I think it was the Carolina Panthers when he tied the record, I believe. I think he had just cut his dreads and you know what I mean, looking like the Windy City Flyer from his rookie year. So, he's special, man, and well-deserved getting into the Hall of Fame. Football's a three-phase game, and if you take special teams as a part of the game, he's the best special teams return man to ever live. So I don't think it's a discussion. I think it's a pretty cut and dry case that he should have been in the Hall of Fame. So big ups to him, big ups to Dave Tobe, big ups to all the guys who blocked for him, man. Because in football, it's a team thing. No matter how great you are, if you don't have 10 other guys doing their job, don't matter who you are. You know what I mean? So well deserved, man, and I'm super happy for him.
Yeah, we're happy that he's finally getting into the Hall. The Bears already have the most Hall of Famers in NFL history currently. And I know personally that Bears fans, I was a sore subject for the longest time that he wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer because he did change the game at his position. And I can still hear Jeff Joniak saying, Devin Hester, you are ridiculous.
Yes, right? Sir.
So as a kid, I remember I used to get pumped up about that.
Well, it's unfortunately in football, just like in life, there's politics. When you not to kind of veer off subject, but when you got a guy like Terrell Owens, who wasn't a first round draft pick, he was my favorite player growing up, even though he played receiver. It was the way he played the game. He blocked, and obviously his antics off the field were a little much for some people, but being a Bay Area kid growing up in the Bay Area and watching him kind of excel from a low draft round pick to becoming, arguably the second or third best receiver of all time. You know what I mean? So it's unfortunate that politics seep its way into, athletics. But, at the end of the day, whether you're first, whether you're third, whether you get in on your 20th try, if you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? Yes, I get it. Everyone would like to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but at the end of the day, he's in now, and no one can ever take that from him. And his name is etched in stone for the rest of the time football's played in this country. So, like I said, big ups to him. I'm sure it was disappointing not being a first rounder, but unfortunately, that's kind of just part of life. And now that he's going in this, I think in a couple weeks, matter of fact, right, at the NFL Hall of Fame game. Yeah. That's something no one can ever take away from him. And, he's part of Bears history, man.
Yeah, Kahlil, I'm actually really intrigued and interested to hear from you about the current state of the Chicago Bears right now. We know that they've been rebuilding for the last couple of years. Now they have Caleb Williams out of USC, Odunze, out of Washington. Are you liking the direction of the Chicago Bears currently?
Well, so look, I just got to be completely honest, right? I'm a high school football coach now, and Sunday is kind of like my game planning day. So I don't really get a chance to watch a whole lot of NFL football. And I don't have NFL Sunday tickets, so unless the Bears are playing on primetime, it's kind of tough to check them out. But, I still follow everybody in Chicago, and, some of my friends still do post and pregame shows. I am excited about what's, the direction they're going in. I think the fact that they drafted Caleb Williams, even though he's a Trojan, I'm a Bruin, there's still that thing there.
Right.
I'm excited. I think, I remember watching him at University of Oklahoma as a freshman come in and beat Texas. I was like, wow, this kid is special. And then he won the Heisman the next year. And I know last year was kind of a tough year, but excuse me. I think the good thing for him is he's got a bunch of veteran receivers around him. And, the Bears defense is pretty good as well. So obviously there's going to be some growing pains anytime there's a rookie quarterback in the NFL, because it's the NFL. You know what I mean? It's the best of the best. Everyone was the best player on their team in college pretty much. So I think there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment. But when you add a guy like Keenan Allen from San Diego, who is, arguably one of the best route runners in the league still. I mean, I think he's in his 10th year or something like that. Yeah. And he's still ultra productive. Having a veteran like that, a guy you can depend on third downs to move the sticks. He might not, do the Randy Moss and take it 80, but, there's only a few guys in the league that can do stuff like that. You know what I mean? The Tyreek Hills and stuff like that, and the Jalen Waddles. But I'm excited, man. I really I hope that they can get back into contention, and because they're really the only teams I pay attention to are the Bears. And I know this is going to rub some people the wrong way, the Packers and the Jets.
Oh, man.
Well, I mean, I played for all three of those teams.
I understand. I get it.
So, and like I said, it's not like I'm rooting for them, but, I do watch those teams whenever I get a chance to on primetime, because, I have a special kind of vested interest in them, and being that I played for them. But I'm excited for the Bears, man. I hope that they can get back to where they're doing, but I think it always starts with defense. Man. As great as I think they can be offensively, if they don't get back to that old monsters of the midway defense, I think it's going to be real tough. Chicago's a very, they play on grass, they play outside in the elements. And, when games get tight and the weather gets cold and the temperature drops, you got to be able to run the ball, and you got to be able to play good defense. And, they don't play in a dome. So, obviously they haven't really had that since they let go of Lovey all those years ago. You know what I mean? They've been pretty solid, but, they haven't been that when you strap up against the Bears defensively, you better know what's coming, because, that's what they were known for. That's what they've been known for. So I hope they get back to that. But having a quarterback like Caleb Williams, I hope that he can, take those steps necessary to become an NFL great.
Yeah, we like to say that ever since the Bears fired Lovie Smith after going 10-6, it's like the Bears have been cursed ever since, right? You think they have one good year and then 3 crappy years, right? So we're hoping that Caleb Williams can finally be that guy, because I think Bears fans, we deserve it. We're ready to see a good quarterback here in Chicago. But I think, Ryan Poles, the general manager of the Chicago Bears, has really set him up and the team up for success. Not only offensively, having Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Rome Odunze. You got Gerald Everett, Cole Kmet as well, building up the offensive line. And you look at the defense side of the ball, Kahlil, as well. You have Montez Sweat, Jalen Johnson, TJ Edwards, and Tremaine Edmonds. Secondaries lights out, right? So to me, this is the closest I think we've been on paper to hopefully being a really good football team.
Yeah, well, the great thing about football is once the season starts, that's when it's time to kind of put in the work.
Right.
You get all these preseason rankings and teams that you think are going to be good, and like I said, the talent is there. I think that's pretty obvious from an offensive and defensive standpoint. So I just hope they can finally put it together, man, because it hasn't been very kind to us over the years. Like you said, since Lovey's been gone, they've made a couple playoff appearances here and there, but the consistency hasn't been there. So I'm hoping that this year they can do some good things. And obviously it's a tough division with the Lions and the Packers. Yeah. I mean, Lions went to the NFC Championship game. Shout out Jared Goff. It's from my hometown. We went to the same high school. So it was good to see him thrive, especially after how he left LA the first time. And then, you got the Packers and Jordan Love, who, throttled the Dallas Cowboys in the first round of the playoffs last year. Now, granted, I said I don't watch football as much as I do, but when it's playoff time, I watch every single snap. You know what I mean? The playoffs are playing. That's the best of the best. And, there ain't no running from that. So, it's going to be a tough division. The NFC North is always tough. Most of those teams, other than Minnesota, I think plays outside in the Lions play in the what's the name of their stadium?
Ford Field. Yeah.
Ford Field. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But, it's a tough division, man. Tough people, Midwest, you know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to it, man. It should be exciting. It should be, you got some pretty top tier quarterbacks in the NFC West, you know what I mean? Between Love and Goff. And then now, hopefully Caleb Williams can come to light and do his thing.
If you were just looking on paper currently at the NFC North, who would be your North winner at this point?
Honestly, and Bears fans might not like this, man. And I'm not going to say the Packers. Trust me. I'm not going to.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not going to say the Packers. Granted, they got a good team, and Jordan Love looked like there's a reason why they drafted him in the first round all those years ago. But I really like Detroit, man. I like the way they play football. I really like their coach. I see I follow a lot of football people, and I get to see him talk a lot. And when he talks to his team, you can really see how passionate he is being a former player. I think the one thing most NFL players want is when they know a coach is going to look you in the eye and tell you the truth, even if you don't want to hear it. And I feel like Campbell with the Lions, I feel like when he says stuff to his team, he means that from the heart. I saw him doing an interview or talking to his team about how, we got to do live stuff in practice. And he got like emotional about it. You know what I mean? And he was like, this isn't punishment. This isn't me thinking that, trying to be a dictator, but we got to train our bodies for what we're going to be going through during the season. And you can tell by the way they play. They play physical and they take chances. They go for it on fourth down a bunch. You know what I mean? So I think they're going to be really tough to beat. And Jarrett obviously has proven a lot of those naysayers wrong when he left LA for Stafford. A lot of people thought it was kind of a wrap for him, and he's really, turned into what everyone thought he was initially, was a franchise quarterback. And, to take a team like the Lions, who have been in, mediocrity for years, other than Barry Sanders back in like 1994 or something like that, when he took them to the playoffs, to take them and, truth be told, they should have won that game against the Niners.
Very well.
They should have won that game.
Oh, yeah.
They were up, I think, 17 going into the second half. So, to give up a 17-point lead. So, but Bears fans, rest assured, I'm not pulling for the Lions. I'm just saying I think they're going to be a tough battle for anybody in the NFC North.
I will say this about the Lions. I absolutely love their coach. I love the culture that they've built. They all play hard. They even play after the whistle. They just play hard in general. But for some reason, I am still more scared as a Bears fan. And it's probably just the years of trauma. I'm more scared of the Green Bay Packers because we can't figure out a way to beat them. We were 4 minutes away from sweeping the Lions last year. And then if you really look at it, the Bears got better. I'm not saying that the Lions didn't. I just think the Bears on paper got a lot better amongst the NFC North teams. So it's really just about Caleb Williams at this point, and he is a rookie, so he will have those rookie growing pains. But let's say he does come out and have that CJ Stroud type of effect, which I know CJ Stroud had a hell of a year last year. Right. Let's say Caleb Williams does have that effect. With the talent that he has around him, this Bears team can be like a really sneaky team, not only in the NFC North, but in the NFL in general.
Well, the NFL is like that in general, man. You never really know. You know what I mean? There's guys who come out of nowhere. I don't think anyone expected CJ Stroud to do what he did last year.
Right.
So I think that the possibility is there, but to get to the top, you got to beat the top contender. You know what I mean? And as of right now, the Packers and the Lions, we all know what the Packers have been for years, even with A-Rod and, his whole "I own you" thing back in the day. You know what I mean? I didn't like when he said that either. But you got to give it to him, man. They were the kings of the throne at the time of the NFC North, and now the Lions and the Packers are there. So I think that just makes for good football, man.
Yeah.
I know obviously people take it very serious, as they should. They've invested hard-earned money into watching these games and to buying merchandise and going to these games. But I would rather have 4 good teams in one division battling out for that playoff spot, for that, for the division spot and the wild card spot, than have one dominant team that, the Packers had been for all those years, where they're pretty much going to lock up the division every year. You know what I mean? So I think the NFC North is in a good place, and I'm excited to watch those guys, man. I really am.
Yeah, I know most analysts say that it's going to be 3 teams from NFC North make the playoffs this year. They say that the North is definitely one of the better divisions in the NFL. But Kahlil, I do want to move on real quick and just talk about life after football with you a little bit. I was kind of doing some research on you before the podcast, and you're starting off. You're the CEO of D1 Bound Football Academy. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So when I got done playing ball, it kind of took me a while. Oh, I'm sorry, man. My phone fell here. When I got done playing ball, it took me a while to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. I went back to college. I got my degree. And then I had some jobs here and there, but I just never was happy. I just kind of felt like I'd put almost 20 years of my life into football, and to kind of walk away from that, and just go do something completely different. It was good for initially, but I had always got that itch. My brother's a football coach. He's coaching at Sarah High School in the CCS, San Mateo. They're the best team in the Bay Area. So I would always go to his games on weekends, and I just kind of got that itch, man. And so then COVID had hit, and, everyone kind of really was, stuck in their houses for a while. So I kind of figured, just brainstormed on what I could do and, what I wanted to do. And that's when I came up with D1 Bound Football Academy, which is basically, it's a youth sports development program out here in the North Bay, where I'm from, which not a lot of people are, not a lot of people really get a lot of recognition out this way. Obviously, California's really known for like Southern California. That's where a lot of the ball players come, but don't sleep on the Bay. We got a lot of good ones out here as well. So I really just wanted a way to kind of give back. Like I said, when I grew up, I never really got a chance to be around anybody who played professional sports or even college sports. Everyone, maybe guys back in the 60s and 70s, but no one was kind of recent. So I founded D1. Partnered up with a bunch of local high schools, and we put on 7-on-7 tournament showcases. We do youth football camps, skill development. So I did that right when we got out of COVID, and then a couple coaches had reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in coaching. I was very hesitant at first because, being the kind of person I am, and, I draw a really hard line in terms of what I expect from my players. Obviously being that I got a chance to play at the highest level, I kind of know what that takes. Being an undrafted free agent and sticking around in the league as long as I do, I know what that took, you know what I mean? And so I was never really given anything. I had to fight for everything. And so that's kind of really my approach with my players is it doesn't really matter how good you are. You still got to go out there and make it happen on the field. So I got into coaching right after D1, and now I'm the offensive coordinator at Rancho Cotati High School, which is a medium-sized school out here in the North Bay, and I'm loving every minute of it, man. It's I think I really found my calling. I love D1, and I'm going to continue to do that for years to come. But coaching football, being back around the game planning, watching teams, breaking down film, it's basically doing what I did my whole life. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's really no different. The only difference is I'm the one calling the plays now, as opposed to the one running the plays that the other coach called.
Nice.
But I'm still in the weight room. I'm still watching film. I'm still talking to kids, trying to get them ready, trying to get their minds right for, whatever it is. And it doesn't, the company's called D1, but, the misconception is, if you're not going D1, then, you probably shouldn't come. But in my opinion, I think you should always strive for the best. When I grew up, I didn't say I want to go play in the CFL. I wanted to play in the NFL. You know what I mean? Right. And if those things never came to pass, then it's not nothing to regret. A lot of people want things out of life, and sometimes it just doesn't come. But what you can always do is you can always control your attitude and your effort. And if you continue to work hard, I wanted to play 15 years in the NFL and make $100 million, but you know what I'm saying? That didn't work out for me. Right. But the things that I did learn in the league are things that help me succeed now as a coach and as a business owner. So I'm grateful.
Kahlil, it's amazing what you're doing. I think that's what the young people that want to make it to that next level need. They need mentors that have been there, that have been through that adversity, right? And, the first thing that I see when I actually go on your guys' website is do everything with pride. And you guys break down pride, and it has a meaning. Each letter has a meaning. So P is for passion, R for respect, I intensity, D discipline, and E effort. That's a really strong message to those young kids.
Well, full disclosure, I stole that from my dad. Those are kind of the words that help inspire me growing up. But I think a lot of times, especially in today's instant gratification and social media world, things get lost in terms of what it takes to get there. You know what I mean? Everyone thinks it's easy, and everybody says they want to play D1, and everyone says they want to go to the NFL or the NBA. But there's only a small few that understand what that means and what that takes. You know what I mean? It's very easy to say what you want. It's very hard to execute the plan necessary to achieve those goals. So, when I talk to kids and when I coach kids, it's always about doing something with purpose, right. Pride and purpose. Because if you're just out there working out, but between sets, you're chopping it up with your friends and you're not really focusing on what you're doing, then you're not really getting the most out of what you're doing. You know what I mean? When I train kids, when I coach kids, I try to get in their minds and let them know, like, every time you hit a rep, you need to imagine making that tackle. Every time you hit a squat, you need to imagine stepping out of that linebacker who's trying to, tackle your legs. Or every time you go to the field and you make a cut, you need to imagine you're cutting on a safety and you're trying to go score. You know what I mean? Because I think those things make a difference, man. It's lost. Guys go to these camps and they just run around. And,
Right.
I've never been a fan of that because I was never talented enough to just show up and run around. I had to put in the work and I had to go do all the little things nobody saw in order to be successful when people actually did see. And I think that's what gets lost is kids always, and it's not just kids, it's society in general, right? They always say what they want. They always say, I want this and this is what I want. I want to make $1 million and I want the big house and the nice car. Okay, well, that's great. I know my dad used to say people in hell want ice water. So it don't matter what you want. How we gonna figure out how we gonna get it? You know what I mean? So that's what I try to do, man. I really just try to help kids, and it's challenging. It's been a learning process for me as well, because like I said, I expect a lot. Not every kid has the want to be an NFL football player. Some kids in high school just want to play on the team. They just want to be a part of a team.
Right.
And I get that mindset, but I also get the mindset of, whatever you do in life, even if you're not, you should always try to be the best. You want to be, you play music, you should try to be the best, piano player in the world. Right. You're an act, you should try to be the best actor in the world. Right. What's the old saying? You shoot for the stars, you land on the moon. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, just try to be good, try to be as good as you can at whatever it is. And that, I think, will help transition you into other things in life, because football is such a short span of our lives, man. Absolutely. I mean, I really only played from 10 to 27. So that's 20 years. I'm 10 years out now. And, I know that's why I said the other day, I don't even know if people remember me, man. That was so long ago, 10 years ago, you know what I mean? So it's like, whatever you do, try to be the best at it. And I think if you have that kind of mindset, then it'll definitely help you succeed in other aspects of life.
Yeah, you need to be all in and you need to put in the effort, especially if you want to be at the best of the best, because I guarantee you, if you're not putting in the work, someone out there is, right?
Oh, there definitely is. Yeah. There definitely is. Trust me. And that's what I tell my kids. And that's what always kind of motivated me when I got tired, or I didn't want to go work out, or I didn't want to go lift. When I wanted to go hang out with my friends and party in the summer and, stay up late and sleep in, I would always be reminded by my dad and my mom, hey, there's some kid out in Texas and it's 120 and he's out there running sprints and you over there playing video games. So, what's going to separate you? And they'd be like, yep, you're right. Time to go to the gym. You know what I mean? So, I think, like I said, if I can help kids understand that and help them achieve their goals, then it's all worth it for me, man.
Yeah. So it's great, Kahlil, that you're giving back. It seems like an awesome program. I'm definitely going to keep tabs on it as well.
Thanks, man.
But definitely keep doing that. But before we let you go, I did say at the beginning before we started, I want to throw some Bears trivia at you. I know it's been a long time. So I got 4 questions. And obviously, as we're going through these questions, Bears fans, you can comment down your answer below in the chat as well. But here we go. So question number 1 for you, Kahlil, is this: in which season did the Chicago franchise win its first league championship? Is it A, 19? Wait, I got options for you. So it's multiple choice, right? So it's easier for you. So we got A, 1920, B, 1921, C, 1922, or D, 1923.
Man, I'm gonna go. The Bears is one of the oldest franchises in the NFL, so I'm gonna go 1920. That was the longest. That was the longest time from now. So I'm gonna say 1920.
Okay, so it is B, 1921. So close, but you're not far off. But hey, so
hey, that's only 60. It's only 80 years before I was born, my brother. But right. It's all good.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm pretty sure a lot of Bears fans wouldn't get that right, to be quite honest with you.
It's all good.
Question number 2 for you is: what number did George Halas wear while he was a player coach for the Bears from 1920 to 1929? Is it A, 4, B, 6, C, 7, and D, 9? And Kahlil, I'll be honest with you, this should be an easy one.
Wow.
For an avid Bears fan, though.
Hey, we got any questions from 2010 and on?
No. We're talking about the oldest franchise in the NFL.
Fair enough. I'm gonna say 9.
Okay, so you think it's 9? Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
Okay, so it's actually C, 7.
Close. Close with no
I
cigar.
love everything's close, but no.
Hey, I'm gonna be honest, man, and Bears fans might be a little upset, but I knew he was a coach. I didn't know he played and coached at the same time. I did not know that.
Yeah, and then if you really go back into history, he actually bought the team. I think it was like for $100 in 1920 or something like that, and now the team's worth billions.
Billions.
So
with a
obviously,
B.
Yes, billions. Yes. So, what an investment to turn $100 into billions, right? So,
take me back to 1920. I'd have went 50-50 with him.
Exactly. So here we go. Question number 3 for you, Kahlil. In which season did Devin Hester? Here we go. In which season did Devin Hester tie the NFL record for punt return touchdowns with 4? Is it A, 2007, B, 2006, C, 2008, or D, 2005?
Wow. Tied the NFL record with 4. So I know he had 6 and 6 his first 2 years.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if they were kickoff and punt returns.
Okay.
I'm going to say trying to think back because those are my college days.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it was either 2006 or 2008.
Okay, final answer?
Yeah, you gotta give me both, man. I'm gonna go both of those. I can't do, you know what I'm saying? 2006 or 2008?
It was actually A, 2007.
Damn, was it?
Yeah, because I think if you remember, it's one of those things that his rookie year, he just tore it up, right?
Yeah.
Like he really took the league by storm. So, and then in 2007, he was able to tie that record, right?
Well, I mean, he had 12 total, I think, in those first 2 years, though, right?
So I think what we messed up on is tied NFL record for punt return. We're not talking about combined. It's just
because it was kickoff and punt returns for both those years. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, all right. So, last question for you, Kahlil, before we end today's episode of KIEQ on the Mic is: how many touchdown passes did Jay Cutler throw for the Bears in his career to set the franchise record? Was it A, 137, B, 143, C, 154, or D, 162?
So I'm gonna say he played with the Bears from 2009 to 2014? 16?
I think it was 16.
16. So let's go. We get 20, 40, 60, 80. So I mean, I'm gonna say he averaged close to 20 a year. So what was A?
So A was 137, B 143, C 154, or D 162.
I'm gonna go A 137.
Final answer?
Yeah, because if he averaged around 20 to 25 a year, then 6 years, that's 130 something. So I'm gonna go around there.
Okay. It was actually C 154.
Damn.
Hey, I'm telling you,
yeah, he was slanging that thing, wasn't he?
Jay Cutler was slanging that thing with Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey on the outside.
Oh yeah, I remember. Trust me, I remember. B. Marsh was a dog, and Alshon was, they drafted him in the second round. My last year was Chicago, and when he went to Philadelphia and turned into a completely different monster. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, so Jay was slanging that thing, man. Jay was slanging that thing.
Matt Forte and Al in the backfield had 102 catches one year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think that was the year they had let go of Lovey, matter of fact. And they brought in Mark Trestman, I believe, as the head coach. And their offense was high flying that year, but their defense was dead last, which is, once again, which is something I don't think is a winning recipe for Chicago Bears football, man. That you gotta have a good defense, man. Don't matter who you are, you gotta have a good defense. Defense wins championships.
Kahlil, you didn't get any of the questions right, but I think it's because you went to play for the Packers. So I think that's just me being bad luck for you. You know what I mean? Like, hey, once you play for the Packers, like, hey.
Hey, man, you can't be questioning me on things that happened 80 years ago, brother. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, it's all good. It's all good, but.
You asked me some Walter Payton questions. I bet you I knock it out the park. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's tough, man. Like I said, it's all love for Chicago. I got nothing but love for him. But, I didn't grow up a Bears fan, man. I was, born and raised in the Bay. I never liked the Niners either. So, but you asked me about certain transcendent legendary players. I'm pretty sure I can get those answers. You know what I mean? Other than the Devin one, I messed that one up.
next time you're on, I will ask you some Walter Payton questions. There's a lot of Walter Payton questions in my little Bears trivia book. That's where I get the questions from. So
I actually had his book back in the day. It's called Never Die Easy. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but I read it in college, man. It was, like I said, Walter's Walter, man. You can't go anywhere and ask someone who one of the top running backs in the history of the NFL is, and they won't say him. I just go on YouTube and type his name in. His film speaks for itself.
Yeah, growing up as a Bears fan, that's like the first thing, as a Bears fan, like Walter
Exactly.
Payton is the greatest Bear of all time.
It was Peyton, it was Dick Butkus for me, and it was Gale Sayers. Those three, and you probably put Mike Singletary in there too as well. Yeah. You know what I mean? Those guys were the hallmark names when I grew up. Those were the guys my dad told me about. Yeah. You said Dick Butkus he had a commercial about, filling the hole like you put that liquid in your tire that fills that hole. And it was like him coming downhill, ripping some guy's helmet off, which would be like a 20-yard penalty and an ejection in today's football, by the way. Right. Yeah. But, those guys are, we're forever indebted to them. Anybody who's played for Chicago and the fan base and how they treat the Bears nowadays is because the guys like that, man. Those guys paved the way for us.
Yes, absolutely, Kahlil. And once again, I do appreciate you once again for coming on, talking some Bears football with me. I know it's been a long time since you actually talked about your time with the Chicago Bears.
It's been a long time, brother.
Just know that the real Bears fans loved you when you were a Bear. And they will continue to love you because once a Bear, always a Bear to us as Bears fans. But once again, thank you so much for coming on KIEQ on the Mic today.
Well, I love the city of Chicago, man. Always got love for the Bears, and hopefully this year this will be a good year for the franchise, and they can start to reclaim some of that thunder we had back in the day and they had back in the 80s. You know what I mean?
And Kahlil, for all the Bears fans, give us a bear down real quick.
Oh man, you're killing me. I tell you what, you do one first and I'll do one.
Hey, that's how I end every show. Bear down, guys. Let's go.
Bear down, Chicago. Bear down, baby.
I love it. Thanks, Kahlil.
Appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon.
You've been listening to KIEQ on the Mic, a podcast all about the Chicago Bears. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Thanks, guys, and bear down.